Hey guys, Yankee here, and today I want to be talking about episode 5 of Tenchi Muyo Ryo-Ohki OVA 1. This is the penultimate episode of the actual OVA 1. The 7th episode is like a special that was made well after the fact. So this is right, we're leading up to the very end here. So this episode opens with Tenchi in the fields, picking carrots, and we learn that basically all the fields in um, the land that the shrine is on has been turned into carrot fields, right? Because Ryo-Ohki just eats a ton of carrots. So we get that brief little moment there at the beginning, and then we go straight back to Tenchi's house where we see a hot springs has been built. And it's not just like a hot springs in the ground, it's in like this like bubble, and it's like floating in the sky. And it's really neat. We don't really talk about how it's put in there. We don't talk about how it was put in there at all. I think that's answered somewhere in like some extra material. But it just looks really neat. Like especially on the house and like throughout this whole season, the shrine lands that like Tenchi's grandfather takes care of, it's just been changing, right? Like in the first episode, it's just the shrine, the cave, and a bunch of empty land, and the big tree, Funaho. And then we get to episode 2, and Tenchi's house gets dropped there. And now here we are in episode 5, and it's like, okay, there's a hot springs now, there's a bunch of carrot fields and things like that, and it really feels like more and more is just being added to the land, which is interesting. So in the hot springs, we have Ryoko just taking a bath, Aika showing up and basically getting ready to just leave because Ryoko's there, and Ryoko invites her in for a drink. And then we get like Ryoko sort of reminiscing about why she cares so much about Tenchi. We get a flashback sort of showing that when she was trapped in the tomb, her like spirit, I guess, was able to leave and just sort of hang out outside the cave where she watched Tenchi just grow up. Like we see a moment of her watching him as a baby, and then him as a slightly older kid, like catching bugs, him reacting when his mother died, things like that. And so she basically watched him grow up, and she explains that, just sort of, she didn't have a real connection with him. She didn't interact with him. She couldn't. But like watching over him, she grew attached, and she just wanted to, like, if she ever got out, she just wanted to play with him. She'd watched him grown up. She wanted to spend time with him if she ever got out. And she explains that the reason she like teases him so much is because when that opportunity to interact with him finally came, he just treats her like a monster, which is nice. Like I'm glad that that's there, and it explains why she has a personal connection to Tenchi, because up until this point it's just she was a mummy, Tenchi set her free, and now she's just hanging around. So we've got an explanation for why she cares so much and why she's sticking around. Mihoshi shows up, Ryoko and Aika bicker a bit, nothing too important there. But finally Kagato shows up. He was introduced, I think, last episode, and right at the very end we see him looking at Earth, seeing Ryoko, and be like, haha, I'm gonna make my move. And then he just waited, because clearly days have passed, because the carrots have grown, for one, and two, like they left the hot springs, built the new hot springs at their own house, so like time has passed. I don't know what Kagato's been doing all this time, but he shows up to take Ryoko, and he does. He takes her to Funaho, and everybody chases after. There's a fight. There's two fights. One where Kagato fights against Tenchi with the, Tenchiken, and Tenchi just can't keep up and is getting pushed back, and has to be saved by his grandfather. And we also see that Kagato has, like, he can control Ryoko by the gem that she has in her wrist. So Tenchi versus Kagato. Kagato isn't even really taking him too seriously and sweeps the floor with him, right? Tenchi's grandfather shows up. There's a really cool fight here. They do a really good job in these two fights sort of showing the difference in skill, where we see Tenchi kind of knows how to use a sword, and he's blocking and trying to fight, but he keeps getting like pushed back and isn't able to keep up, whereas Yosho comes in. This is a spoiler, I haven't talked about that part yet, but Tenchi's grandfather is actually Aika's brother. When he shows up to fight, it's completely different, and he doesn't defeat Kageto, obviously. Kageto's our big bad for the season, but he keeps up with him, and it's not really that much of a problem. I don't think Yosho even gets a hit landed on him. And he also is able to, while fighting Kageto and brainwashed Ryoko, he's able to cut Ryoko's hand to release the gem that Kageto was using to control her. So I don't think Kageto is able to control her anymore. But also, I don't think that gem went back into the sword. At least it wasn't shown. So I don't know what's going on with that gem. So yeah, Kageto leaves after attempting to take the Tenchiken and get zapped like Ryoko did in episode 2 when Aika was like torturing her with it. I'm using the word torture very loosely. And then he just takes her and goes and says, hey, if you want her, come get her. Tenchi decides he needs to go save her. And Tenchi's grandfather, Yosho, the Prince of Jirai, this brave warrior that chased after Ryoko to fight her after she attacked Jirai, what's he gonna do? Nothing. He's just gonna let Tenchi handle it. Like, it's not my problem anymore. The sword, yeah, that's yours now. Take it. Have fun. So Yosho just pushes all of that onto Tenchi. Like, I don't care. Go have fun. Go get killed. I'm staying here. Which, oh god, Yosho. So everybody goes to save Ryoko. Aika is hesitant, obviously, because they've sort of been at each other this whole show. Eventually she just decides to come along. Ryo-Ohki takes ship form and combines with the like saucer bit of Aika's ship, and so we've got an I don't know how to describe the shape. I'll have an image here of the ship at some point in this video, but it looks really cool. I like Ryo-Ohki's design after it got destroyed in episode 2 much better than I did the original ship. Like, I don't like all the stone and stuff that was on it in the original. I like that it's much more like clean now. And I also really like how it looks with I don't remember what Aika's ship was called, but I like how it looks with the saucer like added on, even if it is like sort of like half absorbed into it. I think it looks neat. So anyway, they chase after Kageto into space. We get a space battle. What is Kageto's ship called? Soja? The Soja, I think, is just firing lasers. He mentions like, aha, I built Ryo-Ohki. I know what to do. Like, I know every evasive maneuver it's going to take. And then the way they're able to start avoiding his attacks is because Mihoshi just gives Ryo-Ohki some alcohol, and it just starts sort of bumbling around, and Kageto's like, interesting. This is some very good evasive maneuvers. I wonder if the Tenchiken that the boy is using has anything to do with this. So that's just silly. Everybody's up in the main ship, and Tenchi goes down to the piece of Aika's ship, because, like, Jurian ships have a, I guess, force field that they can produce called Light Hawk wings, and earlier in the episode, Kageto sort of alludes to them, and in this episode, we're first introduced to them, and during the fight with Kageto and Yosho, we see Yosho sort of, like, summoning them, almost. Not almost, he was summoning them, just little ones, like, by his arm. And they are basically just shields, like, sci-fi shields, where it's just, like, I don't know how to describe them. They're just, like, they're not lasers, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, the, like, clear or, like, translucent, like, shields you see in sci-fi stuff, where it just sort of pops out, but it doesn't, like, cover the whole ship. It's, like, they're wings. They're, like, blades, almost. And the ship sort of produces 3, and they're made for defense, but they're also capable of being used to attack, and but that leaves you open to getting targeted and hit and stuff like that. So they use the Lighthawk wings to attack Kagato. The attack fails. Ike, as part of the ship, gets completely blown up with Tenchi inside, and this episode ends with Aika freaking out because she can't see Tenchi on the monitors in Ryo-Ohki. So he's gone. She can't find him in the debris. And Ryoko basically... Ryoko's interesting, and Ryoko and Kagato's interesting because Kagato's there having fun, just, like, fighting, seeing what's going to happen. And he has, like, Ryoko in this hourglass thing that she just easily breaks out of once she thinks Tenchi is dead, and she just hops into space. And, like, Kagato doesn't even react. He's like, okay, she's going into space. Like, he clearly knows that he'll be able to get her if she tries to, like, run away, which is interesting. And that's the episode, right? Tenchi is dead. Oh, no. He's dead for real. There's definitely not 5 more seasons of this show, or 4 more seasons of this show. So that's sort of the cliffhanger we're left on. They can't find Tenchi. All Ryoko finds is, like, a bloody cloth. And that's it. Kagato is a much more interesting villain in this rewatch than I remember him being. Like, well, one, he's looking for, like, his energy, I guess. Like, it's from the way he's talking with Yosho and throughout the episode, it seems like he's looking for, like, not the source, but he's looking for a way to, like, harness the energy that, like, Lighthawk wings produce, or something like that. He's looking for some sort of energy, which I don't remember that at all. I found, like, his interactions with everyone much more, like, compelling than I remember them being. Like, one of the things I always remember the show for is that I just never really cared about the villains. Like, Kagato in this one, I don't remember the name of the villain from OVA 2. OVA 3, we'll talk about that when we get there. Like, I just don't really remember the villains being all great, and I'm really here for, like, the fun space stuff and the silly harem stuff, and that's why I enjoy it a lot. But, like, in rewatching this episode, I like Kagato a lot more now than I think I ever have. So I'm interested to see sort of if that continues in the next episode, where we learn his fate. So yeah, this was a good episode. I'm really excited to watch the next one. And I'm kind of excited for episode 7 too, which is just slice of life stuff as well, because I really do like the space battles, and again, Kagato's a much more interesting villain on this rewatch than I remember him being. But I also really do like the silly slice of life and more harem-y stuff. But yeah, really good episode, great fights. One thing I want to comment on that I don't really talk about, the music during the space fight, I don't really remember much Tenchi Muyo music. I don't really remember much, like, score for shows at all much, really. But the soundtrack during the space battle was really good, and it really stood out to me when rewatching it. So I just wanted to bring that up. Anyway, that's it for this video. Next time, we're doing episode 6, the conclusion to the main OVA 1. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.